So today I'll introduce to you the fourth numbered card of the Major Arcana, the Emperor, who one tarot expert, Alejandro Jodorowsky, who takes credit for restoring the Tarot de Marseille, he summed up the Emperor in one word: command. We'll talk about that a little more, but first, let's look at the number itself, 4. I want you to think, how many houses with a 3-point foundation do you typically see? Or ever see, for that matter? I never have. Now, that could have to do with the fact that they don't make them. Such houses fall down really quickly, or they don't make them because they tend to fall down very quickly. Just like a foundation, we need more than just what the 3s in tarot can offer. Now, we need them, but we need to progress further. We can't just stay in the 3s with unrestrained and unbalanced learning and growth. You know what unrestricted growth turns into, don't you? Biologically speaking, medically speaking, we would call that a cancer. So we can't have that. So the Emperor acts to contain some of that, to prune some of that so that it doesn't become a problem. He takes that growth and the energy behind it and harnesses it for his purposes, which he directs. So the growth doesn't get to direct itself. In this phase, we take charge. We take command. We look at this position of authority that each one of these depictions of the Emperor takes. We do that with our learning and our growth. Not to stifle it, not to stop it, but so that we can best direct it. Now, he needs to do this because the Emperor tends to look at the long term. He tends to look forward, anticipating what may come, what he'll need to get through it, and to eventually meet his objectives, his goals. Look at the Rider-Waite version, where he stares straight at you, straight ahead, or the Visconti, where on a two-dimensional context, he looks to the right, forward. This card represents power, self-control, self-direction, intent, capability. When you see this card, the time has come to inventory your objectives, identify your goals, and take charge. The Emperor does reflect masculine traits, as the Empress before calls to mind a need to focus on the feminine qualities we possess. The Emperor calls our attention to the masculine. It can also alert you to pay attention to a male or masculine person in your life, either one who is recently emerged or whom you have a relationship with already. Perhaps you need to approach them for advice. Or when they approach you, let them have a little free rein. Let them show you the way and help you to identify your path, or give you some advice as to how to proceed on your path. Now, as with all people and things, each tarot card also has its cons, its disadvantages, things to watch out for. The Emperor proves himself no exception. He sits comfortably, like the High Priestess and Empress before him. He could easily fall into feeling a bit stagnant, feeling a bit too cozy, losing his command over his power and ability, just choosing to doze off, choosing to settle and not go forward. It doesn't mean that you've accomplished anything when you just have intent. You need more than that. Now, the Emperor does have intent, but again, you need more. Common wisdom says that the road to hell has been paved with good intentions. But I say that the road to inactivity has the same asphalt. The human mind doesn't easily distinguish between the symbolic and the real. Too much focus on and talk of intentions may trick the mind into believing you've nothing left to do. It lives vicariously through your talk and assumes that you've already accomplished things. So when the Emperor appears, it may show up as a sign that we need to do a little less talking and a little more planning and doing. As for personality traits, it can represent a domineering, controlling, or manipulative quality. Think of all the negative aspects of a politician. And these can become summarized in the Emperor if you don't keep him in check. And part of keeping him in check involves balancing his attributes and qualities with those feminine ones that we previously saw in the Empress. Take, for example, the Santa Muerte depiction, where we see him armed with some sort of automatic or semi-automatic rifle. Definitely an indication of hostility, force, and aggression. Take a look also at the Nicoletta Secoli version, where we see a character that looks a lot like Napoleon. Drawing the Emperor can refer to an inferiority complex, a need to compensate or to prove something to someone, when really we should want to prove something to ourselves. Our ability, our potential to fulfill our objectives and goals. Now, I'll mention also that just like in the Empress, let me break out a couple cards actually. I'll focus on the Tarot de Marseille, restored by Alejandro Jodorowsky. I want to show you something here that we notice. In the High Priestess, we saw an egg. In the Empress, we see the egg hatched. It has released a bird, perhaps a phoenix. In the Emperor, we see that same phoenix, but we see another egg. Now, we can take this to mean a couple things. It could just indicate the beginning of that cycle over, but I also like to think that it reinforces something we just talked about, that need to balance things, the need to balance the masculine and the feminine. We saw that egg first in a feminine card, and we see it again now in a masculine card after we've learned some things. We can't let that go. We have to keep it around so that we can continue to use it. The masculine and feminine don't balance each other out in the sense of -1 plus +1 and bring us into a neutrality. It actually enhances us so that we can become more than the sum of these parts. We can become something greater, having seen both, having experienced and used both. And this stands as a lesson for us in all of the polarities and dualities that we run across. We don't necessarily want to come to an absolute zero middle ground. We shouldn't want that. We should instead want to use those things to enhance each other. And sometimes that means even creating some friction between one another so that we have the energy to move forward and to keep going and to go further than we thought possible. The Empress gives us the energy to do that, and the Emperor gives us the foresight and the direction and the self-control and discipline needed to direct it and keep it moving in a desirable path, one that leads to those ultimate and eventual goals. So, as always, I hope this proved interesting. I hope this showed you some things you hadn't thought of about the Emperor before. And for those familiar with tarot, that it acted as a nice little refresher for this important card. Feel free, please, and encouraged to subscribe for more updates. They will continue to come out. And also, follow us on the social media links posted below in the description. You'll find content regularly and much more frequently updated on those for the time being. Until next time, folks, keep all these points in mind. Review the previous videos on the different Major Arcanas. And until we meet again, keep transforming.